Hello friends and welcome to the Gesundheit Kitchen. My name is Hans Rueffert and we're doing a series on tips for everyday eating because as a gastric cancer patient, survivor, or even if you're the caregiver of a patient or a survivor, what we eat, of course, is the focus of this entire series, but particularly post-surgery, like as you're kind of learning your new normal, there's some kind of pitfalls that we want to kind of help you avoid and kind of steer you towards some of the safer, easier to digest foods. Because of course, with your mechanics being totally reworked, and of course, all of us have had different surgeries potentially. So I have no stomach, I have no esophagus, you might have a partial stomach, you might have a full stomach, but are approaching surgery. So want to kind of shepherd you towards some safer, easier foods. And we're going to start with the first meal of the day, which is breakfast, which quite honestly for me is one of the more difficult meals. I think, and I've spoken to many patients that first meal, especially when your GI system is pretty empty, it can hit your systems pretty hard. So you need to find things that are easy to digest, that aren't so reactive, so to speak. So I've, my kind of partner in crime, Dr. Ellen Steinberg, sent some suggestions, and she couldn't be with us today, but she kind of inspired me with the tips that we're doing today. And one of the things she pointed out was fermented foods, and I'm a big fan of fermented foods. I love sauerkraut and kimchi and kefir and yogurt and sourdough. So we're going to do, the bread that we're going to use today is sourdough, and the great thing about fermented foods is the bacteria actually starts to break down some of the more difficult to process elements of a food. So in the case of the sourdough bread, the sourdough bacteria are actually kind of working on some of the kind of tightly woven fibers of the grain and of the bread. So we got a nice chewy sourdough bread, and that's going to be the platform for a couple of different breakfast options. So let's start with a very simple, and really all of these things are simple, and I think that's important. One of the biggest sort of trendy foods at the moment is avocado toast, and it's also can be very expensive. I've paid 10, 12 bucks for a piece of avocado toast. I'm embarrassed to say, but when you're traveling, sometimes that's what you end up doing. And as the name implies, you got two main ingredients in the avocado toast. It's avocado and toast. And I say toast now, for me, crunchy bread can be difficult to swallow at times. And depending on the bread, sometimes untoasted bread can be difficult to swallow. So kind of depending on your preference there, whatever is easier for you to process, toast it, don't toast it, whatever works best for you. Got half an avocado. I'm going to leave the seed in the half that I'm not going to use for now, and that'll keep it from browning longer. So you can put this in a container. As long as the seed is in there, it doesn't brown as quickly. So I'm going to set that to the side. And then I'm going to take the other half and I'm going to kind of manhandle it a little bit because I'm going to end up smashing this. I'm going to kind of smash it within the shell here and then break it up just a little bit. This one's a little underripe, but that's fine. And then on to our nice piece of whole grain sourdough. And I'm going to use the back of a fork and just kind of smush this sucker down. And, you know, avocados are a delicious, healthy fat. Again, easy to digest and lots of calories, and that's kind of what we want. It's always this full-time job of trying to get as many calories into our redacted GI system as we possibly can. I'm going to put a little salt on that and then top it with some simple scrambled eggs. Now, I scrambled these with a little bit of kefir, which is similar to sour cream. It has a little bit of a sour taste, which I absolutely love. You can get fruit versions, but this is the plain kefir, and it gives your eggs that kind of creamy consistency, a little bit of again, the word sour, I mean that in a good way. It's got a great kind of umami flavor going on to it. And the eggs are high in protein. The scrambled eggs are easy to digest. So all I have in here is 2 eggs, a little splash of the kefir, a little salt and pepper, and we are good to go with that. And then I'm going to top that with some shelled hemp hearts. So it's another source of protein. Again, easy to digest, kind of a nutty flavor to it. It's fairly neutral. You can use this in something sweet if you wanted to eat it on some plain yogurt. I've got some yogurt with some fruit. Something like that in the morning is also easy with a little bit of shelled hemp hearts. I use this in all sorts of things. I put it on tuna salad. It's kind of my go-to seasoning, even though it doesn't really add a lot of flavor other than that little nutty bite, but it amps up the protein It's also got omega-3s and just a great thing to add to your diet. So there's one half of our little breakfast plate. The other half, I'm going to go for a banana, because bananas are also incredibly easy to digest, easy to chew, easy to swallow. After my total gastrectomy, I think I lived on bananas for days. Bananas and peanut butter, or any nut butter. And, you know, I love crunchy nut butters, but especially right after surgery, the actual pieces of nuts were a little bit difficult to digest. So go for the smooth. So I'm going to do probably half a banana is fine. The great thing about having kids is I can eat a half a banana and then find a child somewhere and give them the other half of the banana. And I'm going to do basically the same thing I did with the avocado, is I'm just going to take the back of a fork and kind of mash it up a bit. And again, that makes it easy to process, easy to chew and digest. And then on my bread here, I'm going to take a smooth nut butter. This one happens to be walnut butter. I love finding the different varieties. There's cashew and almond and hazelnut and macadamia nut butters. And again, this one's walnut, high in protein, easy to digest. It's a great fat, and that's what we need. I mean, we need as much as possible. Now, some of you would not be able to eat this entire plate, right? So make a half of one or share half with somebody in your family. But I'm going to go in here with the smashed banana and our walnut butter. And then I'm going to top this with a little chia seeds. And just like the hemp hearts, not a ton of flavor, but it's a great source of extra protein. It's easy to digest. Just one of my favorite little addition foods there. So if you still have an appetite, or if you're looking for a little snack after you have your avocado toast or your nut butter and banana toast, again, simple things like yogurt and fruit. Excellent midday snack. It's more between meals if you're looking for a little more. If you're not a fan of yogurt, try cottage cheese. And again, fruit with cottage cheese goes well, or applesauce and cottage cheese together. If you like a little crunch, Dr. Steinberg recommends things like rice kind of checks, because if you have gluten issues, of course, there's all sorts of gluten-free ones. I personally don't have an issue with gluten, but I love the crunch of the Chex cereal or any dry cereal, a granola or a muesli. I sometimes just eat that on its own, or I will use it again as a topping to something like this if you want the crunch, or on top of yogurt, or on top of a hot cereal. So Ellen is always pushing fiber, and fiber in your diet kind of helps regulate your blood sugar, and also that sense of being satiated, being full, having enough to eat. So always try to have as much fiber as possible, and oatmeal, cream of wheat, all of those hot cereals are a great way to up that fiber content. But if you want that little bit of crunch, or you like a little texture, you can always put dry cereal on top of your hot cereal, or again, the hemp hearts or the chia seeds on top of oatmeal, or cream of wheat or cream of rice. There's so many great hot cereals. The point being is there's so many great ways to start the day, and you've heard that cliche again and again that breakfast is the most important meal. But for a gastric cancer patient, breakfast can also be a difficult meal. So you want to ease your way into it. Now, one of the things I always want to stress is when you see something like this and you think that's a great idea, and so if you've gone from eating kind of heavier, fattier breakfast foods, or even frozen, breakfast burritos or things like that, and they kind of sat heavy with you, and you think, well, I'm going to eat these kind of fresher foods, there's always that transition period. So don't be surprised if you're not used to drinking kefir, or having fresh cultured cottage cheese, or eating a lot of yogurt. Sometimes there'll be a little bit of GI bowel distress, so don't give up. You might have to kind of gradually, incrementally kind of work your way into these healthy foods, but I promise, if you really are mindful about how you're starting your day, what types of foods you're putting into your system, your energy level, your focus, your entire, honestly, your well-being will go up. So this is our breakfast version. We're going to do a lot more of these kind of tips for easier living. It is a different normal. It's a new life. It's a different life, but it's definitely a life that can be full of a lot of fun food kind of finds and experiences, which is what I love to do. Until next time, take care of yourself, and we'll see you next time here in the Gesundheit Kitchen.